Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'll call our regular public council meeting for Monday, November 1st, 2021 to order. First order of business is new business. Councillor Tapper. Pass. Councillor Manning.
Condolences.
Okay. Councillor Pollard. Yes. Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, COVID, and congratulations, please.
Okay. Councillor Goss.
Pass.
Deputy Mayor.
Pass.
All right, I got a thanks. And is there anybody here want to get on the first Q&A? No? Okay. All right, could I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please? Moved.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. We got public council minutes for October 18th. Could I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Moved. Seconded. Seconded. Any errors or omissions? See none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Proclamations, presentations, Q&A. So we've got no Q&A, but we do have a couple proclamations. First one is for World Town Planning Day. Deputy Mayor, take it away.
Okay. Whereas November 8th has been celebrated as World Town Planning Day, and whereas the Newfoundland and Labrador Association of Professional Planners, an affiliate of the Canadian Institute of Planners, recognizes this day to celebrate the accomplishments of professional planners and their contributions to their communities and environment, an international practice that began in 1949, and whereas this day can be used as an opportunity to publicly recognize the critical role of planning in creating healthy, livable, and sustainable communities. Celebrate the valuable contributions sound planning makes to the quality of life in our local communities and at all levels of government, and to promote a better understanding and awareness of who planners are and the work they do.
Therefore, I, Mayor Craig Scott, do hereby proclaim the 8th day of November 2021 as World Town Planning Day in the town of Torbay. Signed at the Town Hall in Torbay this first day of November 2021. So moved.
Second.
And second, any comments? The only comment I will say, and this I guess applies to everything, if you fail to plan, you're planned to fail. So I think that pretty much sums it up. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we have another one, a 2021 proclamation for 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, Worship. Okay, this proclamation is for the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence from November 25th to December 10th, 2021. Whereas the Violence Prevention Initiative of the Government of Newfoundland Labrador is based on a vision that the people of our province will live in safe, caring communities where there is inherent respect for each other and violence of any sort is unacceptable. And whereas violence against women devastates those who love and support women, as well as relationships, families, communities, neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, villages, cities, and towns the world over. And whereas the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is an international campaign designed to develop strategies to increase awareness of the systemic nature of violence against women. And whereas the 16 days of activism against gender provides an opportunity for individuals, community organizations, and governments to work together in solidarity and draw upon this period of heightened attention to gain support for their local efforts to eliminate violence against women. And whereas it is only through raising awareness and changing attitudes that violence against women can be stopped and prevented. And
therefore, be it resolved that the town of Torbay do hereby proclaim November 25th to December 10th, 2021 as the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence to prevent violence against women in Newfoundland and Labrador. So moved.
Second. Any
comment?
I will if I can.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. It was only last week I had a meeting with with staff members with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, meeting at the national level, having a conversation about dealing with gender-based violence and what we can do across the 2,000 communities that we represent across this country. Unfortunately, this is a really real thing that happens all too often to way too many people. And, you know, a lot of people look at this and they say, that'll never happen to me. I haven't got to worry about that. Violence is not a thing in my home. And it was funny, it came to my attention, there's a new show on Netflix, it's called Made. And I did watch that, and I did take the time to go through it, and it was really interesting to me because it shows how it's little bits at a time that things can change and things go wrong, and it's not all of a sudden things change for people. And I think there's a whole level of understanding that needs to go with that, the impacts on women, on children, on families, on communities, your ability to do anything and even function when you're exposed to violence and abuse. So I think the fact that we are making this proclamation, that we're having this conversation, that we're making Torbay a safe, inclusive community for all, and we do that not just on gender, but we do it with a number of different things, and this also comes into the work we do around Pride. And it's so important to me, and I know to members of council, to make sure that we have this conversation, we protect our residents best we know how. So it's a great honor, and thank you for asking me to read this proclamation this evening. And I'm very proud to be a councillor in this town who's going to make sure that everybody knows this is a safe space to live. And if you're having trouble, there are resources available, and we will help you find those resources. That's it for me. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? I guess for the last couple of years, since ever we started doing this, I've been in kind of frequent communication with the group that asked us to do this proclamation. I think they also have a flag that we're going to fly. They mentioned in the email, so we'll have our flag up at December, from November 25th to December 10th. And I think that's important too, because it shows outside on the town hall when people are passing that they might even wonder, well, what's that flag about? And then they might call the town and find out, and then we can kind of spread the word that way. So, yep, thank you very much for doing that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All righty. Mayor's report. Quick little report, running major. I guess we had our department overviews over the past couple of weeks and some training sessions. And thank you for council and staff for coming here and attending those, and for the people that we had come in and give us that training. The trunk or treat, I want to thank staff and our local businesses who contributed to that. I was over there that day. It was it started off great. There was no rain, and then all of a sudden we started having pecks of rain, but it was better than last year. Last year I got completely soaked wet, but it's a great event. I know that I heard some people say, oh, you should have it for more people or whatever, but I know that we have for 300 kids, and that's a lot. And I know that when we originally started doing that, we did it at Jackburn Arena, and it was getting way out of hand. We were getting up around 800 kids showing up, and I think in consultation with our businesses who support this and everyone else, that 300 was a number that we came down on. And we're still in COVID, so we can't forget that. So I guess as we review our programs through this year, we'll look at, is there a possibility of adding more, or is that the right number? So anyway, for me, it was a lot of fun. I always dress up in I calls it my Mayor Incredible suit. It's Mr. Incredible, but it's what it is. But and the kids have a good laugh with that, so we have a lot of fun. So I wanted to say that. And the last thing that I have to say, I just want to make a mention of our birthdays that we have in November. So Councillor Appleby, Terry Lynn Farrell, Infrastructure and Public Works, Danny Lowe, Recreation and Public Works, and Brian Winter. Infrastructure and Public Works. Happy birthday, everybody. Another year, another trip around the sun. We're all getting older. We're all getting better, hopefully. So that's that. I don't have anything else to report. Business arising. Have any business arising for the minutes that we just passed? No? Good. Correspondence. So we have some correspondence here, one from the Nature Conservancy of Canada, NCC. It's a congratulations letter to council, and an introduction to who NCC is, whoever's not familiar with it. We have another correspondence from business registration payment for community events. From Perfectly Perennial Herb Seeds and Bark and Kettle. So I guess we'll move that one on to Recreation Community Services. Okay. We have one from Municipal and Provincial Affairs. It's another, looks like congratulations for council, and some links there to some important information, Councillor Handbook, Municipalities Act, etc. So we'll forward that one on to HR, admin. Okay. And we have one here from Municipal Assessment Agency, our 2022 assessment fees. Send that one on to finance. All right. Anybody have any questions on any of those correspondence? Comment? No? Good. Okay. Moving right along. Oh, go ahead.
Mayor, just regarding the Municipal Council Handbook, the Deputy Clerk confirmed last week with Queen's Printer that they'll be delivered November 12th.
Okay, all right, thank you. They are online though, right, if anybody wanted to go look at it?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, committees of council, committee of the whole. We got a bunch of committee of the whole minutes there. First one, October 18th. It was just a preliminary discussion to talk about expectations of council and committee of the whole. Could I get a minute to adopt those, please? Motion to adopt? Second. Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have another one there for October 19th. This one was, there's a motion in there that we need to adopt for Councillor Manning to attend put her name forward for the Premier's Forum when she goes to the M&L convention. And we had council orientation on respectful workplace and harassment plan. Can I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
It was Councillor Tapper that indicated he would second the motion when we met, so.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So should we do the motion separate or just the minutes?
No, the motion and then the minutes. But
Okay.
if Councillor Pollard and Councillor Tapper could move in second.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a motion there. Town of Torbay submit Councillor Rhonda Manning's name as a delegate for Premier's Forum of Local Government. Forum will take place November 5th, 2021, or November 6th, 2021, as part of Municipalities Newfoundland Labrador Conference in Corner Brook. It was moved by Councillor Tapper and seconded by Councillor Popper. All in
Say so.
favor? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then a motion to adopt the minutes, please.
So moved.
Moved. Seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Now we got another set of minutes for October 25th, 2021. And this was council orientation. Could we get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Moved. Seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Oh, man, I'm have to lose track. Okay, 27th, October 27th minutes, council orientation, department overviews. Motion to adopt those, please.
So moved.
Moved. Seconder.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And last one, minutes of October 28th, 2021. It was council orientation, roles, responsibilities. Thank you to Sandy Hounsel from Municipal Affairs and Municipal and Provincial Affairs for coming down and providing that training. Motion to adopt, please. Moved.
Second.
Seconder. Seconded. All in favor? Yeah, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Just, now we're very practical, but anyway, for the whole set, I just want to congratulate the members around this chamber who attended, and especially the staff and presenters, the external presenters that we had. We learned a lot. We had good discussions even at the public meeting last week. And it was a great start for me anyway, and I'm sure for everybody. And hopefully the teamwork will continue.
I guess I can mark that off my go around then. Get down. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right. Planning, land use development. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, we had our meeting on October 20th, and myself, Councillor Pollard, and Director Swartz. The first item that I'm going to do the motions here first, Kenny's Brook Amendment, to Phase 1 subdivision agreement development of 2 additional lots, associated land swap and open space conveyances, Bourne Holdings Limited, RLL land use zone. I'm going to read the background here because this is something that's been on the go here for some time. The background is the town is in receipt of a request proposing an amendment to the existing Kenny's Brook Phase 1 subdivision development agreement to be able to add 2 additional residential lots to the end of Bourne's Close cul-de-sac, facilitated by an associated exchange of approximately 1,098 meters squared of land owned property for approximately 9,186 millimeters squared of open space land currently in Bourne Holdings ownership. And that's what we keep referring to as the meadow. The proposed amendment also includes the conveyance of a 3-meter wide strip of land by Bourne Holdings to the town of Torbay to create a connection between the storm drain area owned by the town and the meadow, as per RES-273-200. A drawing illustrating the proposal is attached. The matter was previously discussed at the public meeting of April 19th, 2001, as well as at the council meeting of September 20th, 2021. Based on an on-site meeting with area residents, the proponent, council members, and the chief administrative officer, and this matter having been further discussed at the September 20th, 2021 public council meeting, an agreement has been reached which involves the proposal land exchange. A land exchange does not require municipal approval, as it can be dealt with via amendments to the existing Phase 1 subdivision development agreement. Based on the resolution number RES-271-2021 of the September 20, 2021 public council meeting, which dealt with the minister's required approval for Bourne's Holdings to purchase the town-owned land, will need to be rescinded. The recommendation, based on the information submitted to date and to facilitate the planned development of 2 additional building lots in the Bourne's Close cul-de-sac and the associated land exchange, the following 2 motions are tabled. Now, I got a question here. Do I need to read that one to rescind? Because we need a motion to rescind that one, and that one needs to be read out.
I would read it into the record.
I would read it to make sure. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. So the motion to rescind resolution number RES-271-2021, and that one was, it stated, I move that this one be removed. Resolved that the town of Torbay seek the approval of the Department of Municipal and Provincial Affairs to sell at fair market value approximately 1,932.8 meters squared of land to Bourne's Holdings Limited to enable the development of 2 residential building lots. And that's it?
Yes, then.
Yeah, but that's 271. I'm just looking at the other one that's in here.
That's the one you gotta deal with now.
Yeah, I know, I'm just looking at that to make sure that that one doesn't pertain to it. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Comment? Question? No?
I'm
Okay.
just going to add, I guess, after much discussion back and forth on this and looking at going to the minister with it, an agreement had become between the developer and town staff. So that's the new motion now that I'm going to move forward with, just for the sake of the history, because I'm just concerned, I guess, about new people and some of the history that this is revolved around this. So I'll just proceed now to the next one.
All right, let's vote on this one first.
Okay?
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, the Town of Torbay amend and add addendum to the Kennedy's Brook Phase 1 subdivision development agreement so that the developer can add 2 additional lots in the Bourne's Close cul-de-sac. This is being facilitated through 1, the exchange of approximately 1,098 meters squared of land-owned property for approximately 9,186 meters squared of open space land, the meadow, currently in Bourne's holding ownership. The conveyance of 3-meter wide strip of land from Bourne's holding to the town, ensuring public access to the meadow and the town's drainage easement. 3, the 6.128 meter wide drainage easement being retained in town ownership. And 4, all costs associated with the proposed changes to the subdivision agreement, including land conveyances, being that of the developer. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
I have one comment on it.
Go ahead. Can you turn your microphone on, please?
So sorry.
Sorry, I had
I
to
was
check.
making
see
some
if mine was
background
on.
noise, so I didn't want that to get through, so I'll turn that now. So now you made me forget what the foreground noise is supposed to be. No. Item number 4, can we include that all costs associated with the proposed changes, including proper survey and appraisal, including land conveyance, would be that of the developer? I understand that the land is not properly surveyed, so we got to make sure that that is part and parcel, and it probably will be anyway, but just for certainty,
That's a friendly amendment. No problem.
and appraisal.
All right. Anything
So I
else?
can second that, or?
No, it's a friendly amendment. I don't think
Okay.
that we need to vote separately on it.
Can I speak to the
Councillor
motion,
Pepper?
please?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just want to say that I was here about at least 7 or 8 years ago when this first came across my desk in that office. And I think it's long overdue for this to finally move on. I know there's been issues going back and forth this last year. I looked at the videos, I read the material, but I think we're at a stage now that because this town needs that development, as there are others as well. But like I say, it's been prolonged so much. I had the applicants in my office numerous times in the 4 years that I was in the mayor's chair. They were you know, cooperating as much as they could. So you know, it's too bad it's taken this long to finally reach this stage. So I'm in full support of the motion.
Yeah. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I'm really happy to see this moving forward tonight and a resolution in place. And as Councillor Tapper said, you know, there's been a lot of energy invested into trying to move this forward. I know on my behalf, this came to my attention in April of last year, and I worked diligently to try to get it resolved. And to see the motion now in front of us with the measurements, the information, the residents worked with the contractor and the staff to put this together. Beautiful. This is absolutely what we need. So I agree 100% that we do need the development of, you know, the town to move forward. I do feel very strongly that those 2 additional homes there are going to be great. And I love the fact that we've gotten to a place now where we can finally have a win-win-win for everybody. So thank you to everybody who got us to this point. That's fabulous. And I'm looking forward to supporting this motion. Thanks.
That's it. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, the next one is 30.38 meter long fence, 10 Rossworthy Place, Conservation Use Zone C2021-006. The background on this, the town is in receipt of an application proposing to construct an 8-foot-high fence, 100 feet in length, along the northern property boundary of 10 Rossworthy Place, more specifically along the shared property boundary of 10 Rossworthy Place with 117 Patrick's Path and 6 Rossworthy Place. The fence is proposed in an area zone conservation. A detailed background report and plot committee meetings are attached. The committee concurred with the department, also citing that the proposed fence would be located too close to the river, and recommended that the application is tabled with recommendation for refusal. Therefore, the following motion: a motion to refuse application C2021-006 in accordance with Regulation 22 and Regulation 91 of the Torbay Development Regulations 2015-2025, as the proposal is contrary to Section 3.2.9 of the Torbay Municipal Plan 2015-2025, which prohibits permanent structures on land designated for conservation uses, as well as Section 3.2.9 requires that public access shall be preserved through conservation areas. In addition, the proposal is contrary to the Torbay Development Regulations 2015-2025, more specifically the requirements of the Conservation and Land Use Zone Table. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
I'd just like to add that this application has probably been in the system for a while, and now it's finally come back that we have reached a decision on it, and it's, I guess, self-explanatory to be there, but there's a number of issues, I guess, that the director is following up there with one of the residents regarding this as well.
Okay, all right. Councilor Tepper?
Just want to comment, I read the comments from the area residents, and one had the question is, what is the purpose of this fence? And it seemed like nobody had an answer for that, at least that I could find. And you'd wonder, you know, it's a long, lengthy fence, and going next to a river, conservation area, there's a lot to ask. So I'm totally opposed to it. Again, it's right in that reserve, so it's a no-brainer for me.
Councilor Pollard?
Your Worship, thank you. Just following up on the comments of both Deputy Mayor and Councillor Tapper. You know, this was an easy decision to make and also a hard decision to make at the same time, because if you had to see the property itself, I mean, this conservation zone goes right through someone's property. Like, you could almost say that my property is in conservation zone, and the purpose of the fence, well, you know, people get into a situation where they say, well, I want to put up a fence on my property type thing. So it kind of made it somewhat difficult. I guess the clincher was the fact that it was in the conservation zone, and I'm really happy that, you know, we preserved that motions and protect the conservation zone, because I think we had one previously last year, a motion that someone wanted a fence on a conservation zone. So it certainly makes for, you know, continuity and consistency amongst the motions. But I just certainly hope that the residents understand exactly, you know, what the purpose of it was, and at the end of the day, I think it works well for conservation side of things.
Okay, good. Anyone else? I just, and to your point that you just made, I'm glad that we're staying consistent, because we did make that resident on Lower Street shorten her fence by 5 feet, so she wasn't encroaching on the conservation zone, even though it wasn't going to hurt nothing. But at least we're consistent in the application of our rules, which I'm happy about. Anyway, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Referral by the Town of Paradise. Recommendation, I'm not going to get into the background on this one, but the recommendation, the committee has no objection to the proposed regional plan amendment number 7, 2020, and as per standard practice, recommends tabling this matter at a public meeting of council. So a letter can be issued to the town of Paradise citing that the town of Torbay has no objection to the proposed amendment. Motion to issue a letter to the town of Paradise citing that the referral was reviewed and that the town of Torbay has no objection to proposed St. John's Urban Regional Plan Amendment Number 7, 2020. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion here to accept permit listings for the period of September 9 to the 28th as presented.
Second.
Okay, so moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And I'm just going to touch on, maybe if I can get out of here, some of the other agenda items that we had. Maybe. Okay, the 123-5 Torbay Road, BVP rentals, discretionary use. We just want to confirm that that has, there has been an appeal filed on that application. And William Manning Drive, that was on their land acquisition, and the director is going to go back and get some more information from the owner. Anybody got any other questions on anything in there? Because I normally don't go down over everything unless somebody, the rest of it is pretty well self-explanatory.
Could I make a comment, a few questions, please?
Go ahead.
On the municipal enforcement activities, the reports, I went through them and I went back several months and had a look at those reports as well. Because a lot of residents are wondering, they commented to me, what are these people doing out on the road, driving back and forth, going up dead ends for no reason whatsoever. So, you know, again, going back when I was here, we made the agreement with Portugal Code to have you know, a dual agreement, I guess, with the towns, and they are, you know, I think doing a job that we wanted to get done. But you know, I think when you know, you see on these reports that, you know, we're noticing an increase in ATVs. You know, we're noticing a decrease in ATVs because of the weather and that kind of stuff. You know, I think there's got to be a little bit more meat, I think, put into these reports. You know, it's the same way with the parking violations. There's violations 229, warnings 310. Were there any tickets issued, really? You know, have we got the authority to issue parking tickets? I think we do.
We do, yeah.
Well, why are there so many violations and warnings? You know, so these kind of things that really, I think we got to take a look at and see where we're going with it. And the other thing I didn't notice any reporting to the RNC of any. There's a couple of incidents there that, you know, they did mention, but you know, with the speeding and the noise from vehicles in this town, you know, they are breaking the law, and I think our enforcement should at least record either the plate number or whatever. You know, should we have dash cams in the vehicles? That I think would be a big asset, you know, because there's one person in these vehicles and they do night patrols, the whole works, you know, and it is a dangerous situation, I'm sure, you know, at some times. But I think, you know, like I said, we really should sit down and have a look at this, because we are getting these complaints. We've got a letter there tonight from residents areas in the area on Ballyline. But you know, you can only do so much. But people got to realize that these speeders and these people who are breaking the law are coming from neighborhoods within this town and within the neighboring communities. So a lot has to go back to the people who who are, witnessing this activity, report it to the enforcement or report to the town. And then I think we got a meeting with the RNC in November, and I think we should bring that into the discussion.
Yeah, and I guess to your point, we do have a traffic and safety committee between our 6 towns here on the Killie Coast and the RNC. We've been sending some emails, right, CAO, trying to get an update on when the next meeting is going to be, and we've been unsuccessful to this point trying to figure out when the next meeting is going to be. So we're going to continue to follow up with them and see where that is to now, because that was an initiative that was created by Chief Boland, and now that he's gone, we need to follow up and see where is that going, and are we going to continue. So it's all good points that you raised there. Anyone else?
Do we have the date, sorry, Don, of the RNC? So that's a good time to say when that's,
Just to Councillor Tapper's comments, I've been meeting with our regional counterparts for service provision. I have one meeting left next week with the town of Ballyne, and then I'll be bringing back an update to council and some recommendations regarding use of budgetary resources.
I asked a question a while back, and I don't know, Director Swartz, if they came back. We asked a question if dash cams were in those vehicles. Did we ever find out? We were going to ask the guys if there was dash cams in the vehicles. It came up at one of our past meetings.
I must admit, I don't recall that one, so
Okay.
I will follow up on that. If
Yeah.
they have dash cams
Yeah.
in the vehicles?
Yeah,
Okay,
because we had asked that before at one of our meetings, and if they didn't, like, what would the cost be?
right, okay.
Of getting them put in there. And the other thing, if we can ask them about the amount of tickets for this summer, because they were supposedly, and I'm just thinking specifically about up in White Away's Pond
Yes.
area, that they, I know I seen it on social media, that there was tickets up there, but we never got a report back saying if there were tickets, and then how many tickets and that were actually issued up there.
I do remember requesting additional patrols to that specific area. I will
Well,
inquire
of
about
every
that.
area, I guess, but I know
Yes.
that was one in particular that was questioned.
Yeah, okay.
If we have the date there for the RNC, maybe it's a good time to announce that now, so anybody watching and for a reporter could probably put that in so that it can get widespread to residents. I did see something on it. Okay, sorry. Yeah, no, we can probably do that, and
It's
even
November
at the end.
23rd? November 23rd?
November 23rd?
Yeah, we'll make it done.
Yes, the council meeting with the RNC with chief and 2 inspectors is November 23rd at 7 p.m.
But that's not open to the public.
Yes?
No, this
Oh,
is
I
a
thought that
meeting.
one-
This is a meeting with council and the RNC to introduce the members of council, talk about safety concerns, and then a potential of a public meeting thereafter.
Okay, I thought that when we talked about it before, we were asked for a public meeting, sorry.
There was 2 meetings, right? One with council and then one with the public and
Okay.
follow up.
All right, great.
Okay, any
Thank
other
you.
questions, or?
Mayor, can I have a comment?
Go ahead.
I think that's a really good point that Councillor Tapper raises around the commissionaires. And, I think we've all heard the comments about these guys are driving around, their nose is in this book or something, they're not effective or efficient.
On the phone.
And I have to, I guess, make sure that the public understands what we know about that. I do know that when Facebook was lighting up there a little while ago because it was Labor Day weekend and people couldn't get into the Common Building and they were going mad. And within a few minutes, we were able to get in touch with the commissionaires who were in the community, who had access to those keys, who had that facility open for residents, stat. And there's other things that they do besides what people seem to see in the community. It's like all of our roles, you show up for a 2-hour meeting once every 2 weeks and people think that's all you do as a counselor. No, that's not the case. So I think that I think it's important to have the conversation with the broader context. I can tell you before I joined this council, I was contacting Brian Winter and the director then of Public Works and saying, boys, what's going on? And Craig as well, saying, my children are playing on a street and there's needles, hypodermic needles here that need to be dealt with. We have had situations where there's drugs in the schools, drugs in the community. There have been complaints that I've received as a member of this council over the last 4 years where people are saying to me, there's an issue, here we're reading about Bottling Line and what are we going to do about that? But there's issues, you know, at the schools, behind different buildings where things are happening. And these people are driving around the community, making sure it's not as easy to set up certain things like that in the town. And I think your point to ask for more detailed reports is really a good one, because when people are trying to understand what's the value of this service and what is it doing, and you know, when Councillor Tapper, you talked about the tickets, and I remember when we started issuing tickets, we did get permission for ticketing, because that was one of the big issues for parking and pushing the snow across the road. And then we had a big backlash of, what do you mean? You're giving me a ticket? I shouldn't be getting a ticket. And I think, you know, if we're going to have these people in place and if we're going to issue these tickets, and these tickets are issued for safety reasons, like Deputy Mayor said, you know, up around White Waste Pond, when emergency vehicles need to get through and it's a gorgeous day in July and people want to be out and enjoy the park, we need to make sure that there's safe access for things. So I really think it's important that we do have this conversation, that the public hears us in the chamber, having the conversation about the role of the commissioners, the importance of the commissioners, what impact they've had in the community, what of the many roles they do have, you know, what are they doing to serve the people? And then we can take that back here and have a stronger conversation. So beefing up those reports, maybe asking committee to take another look at. And then, you know, when we do have the conversation with the RNC, maybe the conversation is, you know, what exactly are the commissioners doing? What else can they do? Where's that line with the RNC? Because, you know, we tell people all the time when you're dealing with speeding or any other infractions around town, call the RNC, or our commissioners will. But it's a service for, you know, after hours and making sure things are looked after. It's invaluable in many ways. And I think it's important that we do a little bit more of informing the public about what they do. The fact that we cost share that 50-50 with Portugal St. Phillips, which was a great arrangement, you know, to have put in place in the first place. So there's a lot of positives here. And you look, I'm not saying that we don't need to look for efficiencies. We always do. Can we do things better? What else can we do here to make that service better? Absolutely. The only other thing that I would question in the conversation is the idea of dash cams. I think is a very good discussion to have. But if we're paying them as a outside third party, you know, who's providing a service to us, the cost for that dash cam should be on them as the consultant that we're hiring to provide that service, not us as municipality. Because if we do pay to put dash cams in the car, then once the contract's over, what are we going to do? Have them taken back out again? So I think it's a really good point, and I think we certainly should have that conversation from a safety perspective, recording what's happening and that kind of thing. But I do think if we are going to have that conversation, that we should ask that they provide that as part of the service, and not us invest taxpayers' money for that for a private contractor. Thank you.
Anyone else? I think that I'll be surprised if there is no dash cam, because I know there was an incident probably 2 years ago where they captured a ATV going on an enemy line with their dash cam and forwarded it to the RNC, and the RNC went and confiscated that vehicle. So I think they might have had them. They probably still do. I think the other thing that we need to be mindful of is the terminology that we use. I try and use the words municipal enforcement, because that's what commissioners are for us. They're here to enforce our municipal bylaws, the ones that we have jurisdiction over. One of them is parking now, because that's one that we applied for. But the other is our noise nuisance bylaw, whatever bylaws that the town has, and they help us develop those as well. So I think that people just need to understand that they are municipal enforcement, and that's what they are, right? They're not, we can't reimagine them into something that they're not, going outside the jurisdiction that we have. But anyway, it's a good conversation, and we'll get back to that and find out, wait for the CAO's recommendations to come back on where we should go with certain things, and what our neighbors think about getting that service provided by us. So, I mean, it's all good stuff. Back to chair. Is that it?
That's it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alrighty, admin and human resources. Councillor Manning.
Okay, let me see. There's a memo there. Was that demotion? Okay. There's a memo that we looked at concerning 2021 election ballot boxes. As per Section 59 of the Municipal Elections Act, 30 days have passed since the September 28, 2021 municipal election. No recounts were requested, nor were there any court actions pending regarding the election. As a result, the ballot boxes must be destroyed. A motion of council is required to complete this action. As per committee mandates, the recommendation will come forth from Administration and Human Resource Committee. This matter will be discussed, or was discussed, at the October 25th, 2021 committee meeting. Councillors Manning and Tapper agreed to bring the recommendation forward. And the motion is further to Section 59 of the Municipal Elections Act that the ballot boxes related to the 2021 municipal election in the town of Torbay be destroyed.
All right.
So
Moved. So moved. Seconded. Any comments or with that? Oh, it's pretty straightforward. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And so the Administration and Human Resources Committee, we had our first meeting there October the 25th. And it was myself, Councillor Tapper, Mark Whalen, Director of Human Resources, and the Chief Administrative Officer, Don Chaplin. It was an overview of the whole department, and we went through a lot of different things, such as the committee mandate overview, strategic planning, policies and procedures, performance, productivity, training and development, and performance management, touched on sick leave, absence, recruitment and selection, the wellness committee, occupational health and safety, workplace Newfoundland. It was a really good meeting. I can certainly go ahead and read all the minutes, but it's all there, pretty straightforward. It was an overview to us as a new committee. Very informative, and I don't know if anyone has any questions, but for me personally, I took a lot away from that meeting, and to help me understand a lot of different things.
Okay, good. Any questions?
I'd just like to make a comment and to say that with regards from HR and the minutes and what have you, that probably not only yourself, but I found them very informative. And I guess probably the kudos go out to
Absolutely.
Mark for preparing them. But thank you very
Yes.
much. It's something that I guess we had been scrabbling with in the past, so it's good to see the detailed HR committee meetings. Thank you.
Councillor Appleby?
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question. The Occupational Health and Safety Committee has been functioning since I've been involved in council. But last week, there were some emails floating around about hazard analysis and safety for employees, that sort of thing. So I do know that the directors are working to put some of that together for me. But I'd like to ask committee to have a look at it, because the conversation that we've been having was within the scope of public works employees, to make sure that for everything they do, if they're clearing roads or responding to an emergency or whatever it might be, that there's a hazard analysis in place to make sure that they're safe. And I think for our contractors, as a qualification of them coming to work with us, to make sure that WMIS and, they have hazard analysis in place. And I know in my position, outside of here, when I do my day job, if I were to travel or take on certain tasks, then when I go into the position, it's laid out for me, Trina, these are the things that you need to be aware of. This is what keeps you safe. So if you're on a site, you have to wear a hard hat and steel-toe boots. this is what you need to be aware of, and it's signed off, so I know what those risks may be. And I think it's really important, and, you know, I've got a whopping 4 years behind me here, so I'm learning as I'm going still. But I think that it's really important for us to go back and have that discussion about occupational health and safety. And we didn't do it while I was on the committee because this conversation hadn't come up. But I think it's really important, or not the level, I guess, what I'm asking for. But what I'd like to do is ask you guys to go back and have a conversation with the director about, you know, are there any gaps around occupational health and safety? Do we need staff and resources? Is there any documentation that we should have in place to make sure that, not just in one department, but all departments, so if it's a community services or planning or any other activity, that our staff and the staff that we're hiring in the summer for the students in the camps, that those safe work practices are in place? I'm sure for many of them they are, and I remember when I was on the Recreation and Community Services Committee, I know Tina had some of those things that were in folders for different things, but I don't recall ever doing an analysis across the organization to see what we have in place, what resources do we need, and I don't know, do we need someone to come in and have a look at that? So I'm just raising the point because it was part of a dialogue within the last couple of weeks, and ask that you guys have that conversation with the CAO and director, and then do an analysis to see what and if any supports we need to have in place. Maybe we have it all covered off and that's great, and maybe that's it and that's awesome, but if we don't, I just want to make sure that we're protected as a town, our staff are protected as employees, and that us as council have done our due diligence to make sure that the safest workplace that we can have available is there for everybody. So
Absolutely. Very good insight and questions to that, and we will chat
yeah,
and
thanks.
get that information.
Very good. Sure. Thank you. Anyone else? Good. Thank you, Councillor Manning. Now, where am I to? Lost my spot. Corporate Services, Corporate Service Committee motions report, and that would be Councillor Tepper. Am I right?
You're right. You're always right. Okay, we had our meeting on the 28th of October. Myself and Councillor Goss were in attendance, of course, with the director. You see, we have a couple of motions related to the commons. Having reviewed the requirements for the installation of snow guards and roof anchors at the Torbay Common and the necessity of office partitions for the staff area of the Torbay Common, the committee recommends a budgetary transfer of amounts allocated in the 2021 budget totaling $70,000 from the accounts, from two accounts for the sidewalks, the other being a loan stormwater management plan. It totals $70,000, and this money to be transferred to account 53986520 Torbay Common rebuild. The identified amounts are available for transfer as the loans for these two projects have not been advanced. The available funds represent the budgeted loan payments that have not been required year to date. So I move that these monies be transferred.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions?
With regard to those common rebuild, so that was, I don't understand, I saw the emails in there asking for that, but that was in the budget last year and it was taken out. Is that the same thing that I'm talking about? Or am I talking about something else?
I was off on leave when the budget came forth, so I can't speak to what was in the budget and what
Okay,
was
well, I
out, but
read-
the Director of Corporate Services could maybe clarify.
What are you asking what was in the budget?
On the Torbay Common rebuild, is that for the anchors and snow guards, or is that something else? Am I getting it
No,
mixed
that's what
up?
we're putting in. We're putting it into that account because that account already exists in the budget. And then once we transfer in the $70,000, the snow anchors and snow guards and roof anchors will be charged against that account.
Okay, because they were in the budget for last year, but they were removed.
I
right?
believe so.
Yes, that's everything that I'm after seeing in here, I guess, reading the history and that on it. So we can move it in here with no problem, and it's not going to affect any
No,
budgetary
the
issues?
the other two accounts are loan accounts, and the loans have been advanced, so the payments have not been required year to date, so those two amounts are surplus amounts in our budget.
Okay, and that'll be the workstations for HR, or for
For the
recreation
staff,
as well?
yes, just outside of Jen's office, that room there.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about that room, and I was going to question it, because in the past, you were going to have that as a room set up in case there was an emergency?
Yes, well, what has happened is the director is now working out of the community centre, whereas the former director worked out of the town
Yeah,
hall.
so this will be over at the Common?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
yep.
perfect, good. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Councillor Collins?
Just a question on that, and I have no problem doing the motion to move, because I know we did discuss it last year around the safety issue with especially with the snow falling off the roof and that type of scenario, especially around the entranceway and the sides of the building where there's a bit of sidewalk. And the roof anchors are certainly something that is necessary if we have to get into any repairs or anything. I just want to make sure that we did our due diligence on the quote side of things and got 3 quotes or whatever it is as applicable for the guarding and the phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 of the roof anchors. Make sure we just didn't pick one person and say, yes, hello, here we are. Unless it can be justified that way, but.
The Director of Recreation and Community Services will speak to that.
Yeah, no, the quoting procedure was followed with that. We actually were only able to get 2 quotes. We did go to 3, I guess, companies, but only got 2 back on it, sorry. But the process was followed.
Thanks, John.
Anything else?
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple questions so I'm clear. 35,000's coming out of the sidewalk budget, and the stormwater management, 35,000's coming out. We had a bunch of motions that we passed a little while ago for 20,000, 20,000, and 20,000 at least for extending the stormwater management remediation that we were doing down in Skipper's Landing. So I'm trying to understand how there's 35,000 that we're saying here we're going to transfer over. I just want that clarified, because I'm not sure that I understand why we needed to have the motions for the at least 60,000 that we transferred into over and above the money that we had. We did that in the last couple of meetings. So I'm just a little confused about, if we had 35,000 sitting there that we're not using in the budget, why did we have motions to do that? And I'm sure there's an explanation that I'm just not getting. So that's my first question. And then my second question is, how is it the 35,000 is coming out of here and going over there? Like, we have sidewalks that are started, and we have sidewalks that we need to do. So if we're moving from stormwater management and sidewalks, which are both projects that need to be continued and further work done in the town around them, I'm just trying to understand the logic of taking it out there. Is it because the surplus is there for this year, and there's another way to make sure that $70,000 is back in for budget discussions in a couple of weeks? Because those costs are still going to be things that we're going to be looking at for 2021, 2022 budget. I mean, we're still going to need money for continuing the sidewalks on Torbay Road, and we are still going to need money for stormwater management, because that's in the infancy of starting. So I'm just trying to understand the logic behind picking these 2 items now. And is that $70,000 going to be found somewhere else for the next year's budget to put back into those accounts for those purposes? Because we're going to need money to continue the work. So can I ask for some clarification on those 2 items, please?
Certainly. These 2 accounts are not the actual project accounts. So these 2 accounts have nothing to do with actual costs incurred for the projects. These were the budgeted amounts for the loan payments that would go against the loan that we got for the projects. And we only passed the loans in October 4th in our council meeting.
Right.
But we had budgeted payments for the entire year for the loans. So from the period January to October, we didn't make any loan payments. So this is the surplus that's actually in the loan payment accounts and not in the actual project accounts.
Perfect, Norm, thank you. Because that's exactly what that's why I asked the question. If we've budgeted money to make those payments that we didn't use, it's not taking it from sidewalks or stormwater management.
No, it is not.
It's just money that was set aside in the budget to pay for payments that we did not have to make because we didn't make the motion until October.
Yes.
Great, perfect, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yep, that's perfectly clear for me, thank you.
Yeah. All right, anybody else question? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, moving on to the corporate services report. The payroll. Regular payroll for 35 employees for the 2-week period ended October 13th, 2021, totaling $79,695.96. Accounts payable for the 2-week period ended October 22nd, 2021, invoices in the amount of $187,690.85 were processed. So we have a list of 13 operating invoices to be for approval. So I'm going to present them now. Receiver General Payroll Remittance, $24,031.47. North Atlantic Regular Unleaded Fuel, $6,525.17. CFL Environmental Inc., September Garbage Contract, $45,277.54. NL Power Consolidated Billing, $8,189.02. NL Power Street Lighting, $19,964.23. Municipal Assessment Agency fourth quarter assessment fees, $25,434.50. H&M paving patches, $11,155. Trio benefits, group benefits, October 2021, $14,031.65. EMCO Waterworks culverts, $8,564.28. Commissioners Municipal Enforcement, September 19 to October 2nd, 2021, $5,152. Triware prepaid IT support, $5,750. Wolseley 150 gate valve and fire hydrant, $5,152.78. Nutralon tree chipping, $12,191.44. I move payment for these invoices.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Questions?
Just a quick one. One of the things that I brought up in the last term of council was a review of Trio and asked that we have a look at the benefits package for staff to make sure that it's the most efficient that we could have. I would like to just ask that committee go back and have a look at that again. Trio is an organization that was created to provide the benefits for municipalities. And the thought at the time when it was created was for smaller municipalities in particular who would find it more difficult to provide these benefits to their staff without having that volume. That's kind of where it came from. Then I sat on that board as a director of M&L back in 2018. So I'm very familiar with the board. And I know since COVID has come in, there have been discussions with people about making sure that we have the right benefits package. And so some of the conversations that have been had with me long since I was on that board was, are you getting the best return? Are the benefits the most comprehensive? For some people, were they able to say, hold on, we're not in the workspace. Do we mute some of these payments for these benefits if they're not accessible to employees while we're going through COVID, some of those different discussions. At the end of the day, I have no personal interest in this whatsoever, other than to make sure that we as the town, who are matching what the staff are putting in, are making sure that we've got the most efficient costs going into the benefits plan, and also that our employees get access to the best benefits that are appropriate. Now, maybe staying with Trio is the answer, but we haven't been able to do that analysis and have that discussion. We did attempt, we did try, we did have conversations around it. So I'll just ask the committee review that again, have a conversation with the director, and see where and what next steps may need to happen to have that discussion. Once that analysis is done, whichever way it goes, fine by me. I just want to make sure that we have the best package available for the town and staff. So I'll just raise the point, ask the question, refer it back for discussion again, and see if that can be something that gets put back on the agenda for the Finance Committee. Thank you.
I'm sure we did have a conversation at some point during one of our sessions last week. I'm not sure which one, but sorry you weren't there, but to hear that. But we had a detail, and it's similar, because again, this goes back to when I was on council before. The cost was alarming, and some municipalities were moving out of the, you know, the provincial grouping. So you know, the cost, we got to have a look at that closely and see, you know, what we can do with it.
Okay,
Make
all
it
right.
cheaper for employees, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor.
Director.
That was discussed at our committee meeting last week, and this week I did reach out to a consultant to see what we'd need to get a quote before we go to market, and they haven't reached back to me yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
On the radar.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, there's 4 capital invoices that we need approval to pay. The total is through $368,547.13. Borealis Consulting, renovations Torbay History House, $97,953.97. Wood Environmental and Infrastructure, Torbay Great Pond Study, $16,173.17. Modern Paving Limited, Skipper's Landing Drainage Upgrades, $241,846.46. Triware HP ProBooks, $12,573.53. So moved to approve payment for this.
Moved. Seconder?
Second,
Seconded. Questions?
the payment for Borealis, I just had that there before. Is that a progress payment, or does that cover off the change orders that were there? Does anyone know?
I believe that's the first progress payment. They haven't made one. This is their very first one.
Anybody else? I will have a comment, and that's on the Skipper's Landing drainage stuff. So when you look at this now, and I don't know how much money we're after spending on it, but this is only a portion. And I think that I'm glad that since we've been here, last couple of terms of council, that we've updated our development regulations to make sure that this type of thing don't happen again. When somebody builds a subdivision, we don't get stuck with a bunch of drainage issues later on down the road. And that we can see, and this goes back to the planning, if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. This is costing us probably, I don't know, this is $250,000 right here to go in and fix up something that could have been addressed at the beginning when we did the original subdivision at the time. So I think that this is just an example of what happens when you don't have proper regulations in place and the trouble that you can find yourself in. I just thought I'd mention that. All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Tepper?
No, that's it.
All right, the reports are there attached for your perusal at your leisure.
Reading enjoyment.
All right, economic development and tourism, Councillor Eppley.
Thank you, Worship. There is an update provided here for economic development and tourism. Myself and Councillor Manning did have discussed trying to arrange a meeting with all of the council meetings, and then I was on the Burin Peninsula before the COVID outbreak. So it wasn't until Saturday past that I was outside of the 14-day window to make sure that I would not carry and transmit. And I can assure you, last week was a very rocky week for us personally, with my family and nieces and nephews having to be tested because we were that close to it. So if there's any questions, by all means, let us know. The points in here, I won't read them all out. It talks about some of the things that the Economic Development Officer participated in, the Torbay Business Awards nominations. The deadline is November 18th. We've got some pretty fabulous businesses doing some pretty fabulous stuff, so please make sure to nominate your favorite businesses. The Regional Wayfinding Project, there's a note there on that, the tourism guide, and that we're going to find ourselves in that with a full-page ad, and there's going to be 3,500 guides printed. The culture and heritage piece of making sure that we do something during the Torbay 50 celebrations in 2022 for the William Amherst National Historic Site ribbon cutting. I'm very happy to see we have that in there. So if there's any questions, by all means, we're certainly happy to go back and have a conversation with our Economic Development Tourism Officer. But we have an update at this point. Any questions, comments? Happy to entertain them. Then so ends my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Infrastructure and Public Works. Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. We met on the 27th, myself and Councillor Reckleby, who was on Zoom protecting us from COVID, and Director Bryan. The History House project is well underway and nearing completion, we hope. Renovations on the interior is on the go at the present time. There's a motion here for, and I'll read it out and then we'll speak to it after. Motion to approve contemplated change notice, which is change order number 3 for this portion of the project. The change order is to install a new utility sink along with washer and dryer hookup in the basement of History House. The amount of that is $5,253. So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Questions?
Just want to say that I would like, I don't know if it's going to come back through this committee or admin finance, to have the other change orders come through so we can read them into the log or into the book for motions, because there's some $80,000 worth, I think, of renovations that were done. I don't have a problem with the renovations, per se, and I understand the project's on budget. Just want to make sure that we're all aware of what transpired, and there is a copy of it attached here. But, when you're dealing with an old house and any new concept for an old house, and you uncover things like original flooring and some layouts that don't exactly, I guess, work the way that you think they would from a new management perspective, I guess, from the operation of it, there will be some internal adjustments that are needed. So, like I say, in principle, I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure that we go ahead and read the other ones in order. This doesn't have anything to do with this particular change order, but seeing as a change order, I bring it up. So anyway, sorry if I confused everybody.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
So I did confuse everybody, which is stormwater management plan for the Skipper's Landing area is still underway. As a matter, well, it's finished, just about finished for this year, I guess, really. And His Worship mentioned it there a little while ago in terms of some of the findings and changes we made along the way. And by this time next year, we'll have at least another phase of it done, so that'll be great. The new fire department annex renovation project, which, as we all know, was part and parcel of the COVID funding money that came in. That project is continuing and expect to be completed over the next couple of weeks. So if you look out the back door, from what I understand, you can see some work being done. Flow meter project overall, the leak detection that we had talked about earlier on, all those have been done and there are no major leaks found. The investigation of what it takes to extend the intake in North Pond is being completed, and I guess we'd have to deal with that somewhere down the road once Wood comes back in to talk about it. And the flow meter and SCADA, the documents are still in Municipal Affairs for approval and review. RFP for the sand salt storage building will close on October 21st. I guess we did. The documents are being reviewed currently. I think this is sometimes a misunderstood or a spend in terms of the need for a salt and storage building. I think if people look at the amount of, I'll say slippage, but the amount of, I guess, salt melt that we have when we don't have a place to properly store, we end up with water obviously cutting into the salt pile, and lots of times that we say that's probably up to 30% of the salt that we actually buy gets lost. And then it's the problem of loading it also into the rigs themselves, where they probably get big chunks and you just don't get the dry salt, which is much easier and lighter on the trucks as well. Sidewalk project is underway. When we originally submitted the sidewalk project, we had talked about the emergency lights and this was talked about budget time last year, we originally talked about the emergency lights and infrastructure around the fire department. And from the sidewalk project side of things, the underground engineering and infrastructure is in place, but the above ground was not included in that tender, and we knew that because we had some portion of money laid aside. So it is now in the engineering stage where we're going to do that. So I would put through a quote to provide the engineering service to put the emergency lighting around the fire department. So I'm going to read that motion. Motion to accept and approve the proposal dated September 17th, 2021 from Wood Environmental to provide engineering services to complete the above ground infrastructure for the traffic lights at the fire hall in the amount of $15,237 plus HST. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
I just got to ask a question on that. So I thought that those lights and everything, that was included with the price of the sidewalks.
No,
And
we
same.
included it in the discussions around the price of the sidewalk, and we had it broken down into two parts, and there was money left over that wouldn't go into that we would do to put it in. It was all talked about in the same bundle, so it
Yes.
is the same bundle, just essentially two separate contracts.
Okay. So we have the money then set aside
Yes,
for this.
money's there
So
for
the
that.
likelihood of that going in this year, what are the chances of that?
Gee, I don't think it'd be a problem even this year, depending on the tender, State Brian.
The engineering side of it done this year for sure. The actual lights on the street out there, obviously we're running up on in November now. So I don't know if anybody noticed today, but they're back over on the north side now, doing road cuts, or doing the asphalt cutting for sort of going to start the actual concrete curb sidewalk over Darrell Pod Drive and come to Bowling Line to make sure that's finished for this year. And then they're going to come back and finish off the underground infrastructure and this stuff.
Like, I'm really concerned about that. I mean, we're into the 1st of November, and I know they're at the end of Bowling Line, so they gotta come back and put pavement and that down in there for that cut. So I can foresee, and I know that's the way that it works out, but we'll have the plow going along some morning, taking the snow off that, and they'll be there trying to pave it based on the information that I remember getting years ago. Really, we shouldn't be paving beyond, then they said, I think it was the first week in September. And now we're up to November, and there's a lot of work that they got. I know, and I thought this part of it was done. So while we'll end up carrying over the money that we've got put aside for next year to try to get that done. Is
That
that
too, yeah.
what?
I'm sorry, I was thinking that the sidewalks were actually done, stupid me. Because they need to be done before this goes in. Well, at least it'll be engineered and go hand in hand with construction.
Yeah, because none of that will happen. The sidewalks won't get on this side, because I thought they were going to do it in sections and do the north side over there first, but they haven't started. So that's what you're saying now, Brian, that they started today?
Yeah, so on the north side, so the way the sidewalk project works is you got your underground infrastructure, which is your catch basins, drainage and all that good stuff. So that's all done from Darrell Pod Drive to Bowling Line, as everybody can see. And then they jump down to Indian Mill Line and they're coming up the hill,
Yes.
sort of, they're up as far as Yo's Lane right now. And the original idea was that you would finish north side first,
Yes.
concrete, everything done.
Yes,
forgot
that was
about,
my-
then move on.
Yeah.
But they were waiting on one of their crews to come, so they continued on with the piping. So now they're going, the crew is there now, so they're gone back, and like I said, they got the asphalt cut done today. So over the next week or two, you will see that all the concrete will be put in place, that asphalt will be patched back. And what I kind of figure what they end up doing is, the areas that's cut out for catch basins and pipes, say, on going across Bridge Road and that'll be a temporary patch put over that for the winter, and they'll probably come up to the,
Okay, so then
and start the underground stuff again.
I know, it's just the time of year.
Yeah,
putting
and
it on.
again, we spoke with this first when the contract went out. I mean, everything is timing when it comes down to it.
Where's that going, asphalt plant?
Sorry. Yes, and I don't think, I probably shouldn't say this aloud, but I don't think we'll be stuck with no asphalt because, like I said, the contractor have got their own asphalt plant, so they've got that set aside in their plans, right? So,
Well, in some ways, you'd be better off if it's going to be down, they're going to be trying to do that in the middle of the snow.
yeah, and I mean, I've seen sidewalk going in the winter time as well, as long as the cost is the contractor more money to do it as well.
Yeah, then if something goes wrong with it, anyway, I just got a lot of issues that, I don't know, when I'm talking to residents, I'm looking at them and saying, yeah, got the same feelings.
Yeah, that's construction.
Well, it's all under warranty, right? It's warranty on it all, so,
For how long?
I don't know, it's warranty on every,
I know, but they come
Paving
in and
job
put the
that's done.
sidewalks in this year, and we got an issue with them next year, and the pavement, so.
Just for the record, could I ask a question, similar question? You mentioned there's a cutoff date for the asphalt. How about concrete? You know, that's an entirely different service, right? So, you know, is it late to be pouring concrete?
No. So you can pour concrete under pretty much any temperature as long as you, the only thing is, like I said, it's going to cost the contractor more because they're going to have to cover it and put heat to it, right?
Thank you.
right? We get a motion up here or what?
Yes.
All right, okay. All right, good. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed, carried. Back to you,
Mine
Councilor
went somewhere
Pollard.
else that time, I'm sorry. Traffic calming, one of our favorite topics. We had much discussion, I guess, around the traffic calming on Bali line.
Could I just interject for one quick second? Sorry. Because Mayor and I both live on Bali Line, I just want to revisit this discussion. We have had a meeting in the past. There's a motion that we did have in the past council when the question came about speaking about Bali Line and any participation around it. And at that time, I recall the motion being, were Mayor and I in conflict, and the vote being no, that we weren't here in the chamber. I just want to reference that again, or to ask, do we need, with a new council, to have another motion before we talk about traffic calming and Bali Line, just to make sure that there isn't a potential conflict of interest for myself and Mayor. I think it's really important for us to always ask the question, when in doubt, put it out there and ask, you know? So I just wanted to get some clarification before we moved on that point. Does the motion from the past council still hold? Do we need a new motion? Is there anything that Mayor and I should be aware of or thinking about around this discussion before it happens here in the public chamber?
I don't see a major issue with it. I don't think there's any monetary value for either of you at this point in time. There's only traffic calming, and it is pretty much based on resident requests in the area, other than yourselves.
I did seek clarification from the department just how to deal with previous motions of council with where there's new term of council, and the previous motion stands, so there doesn't need to be a second motion passed. So
Okay.
the previous decision stands.
Okay, so there is no conflict issue confirmed for myself or Mayor on this point. Perfect. Just wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
we
that's
brought
fair.
that forward and
Okay.
had that.
Go ahead. You're on Bali Line too,
I
aren't
just
you?
wanted to point out on
you go.
who I'm balling on, just to be included in all that.
Yeah,
Sorry, Councillor.
Not to sneak under the cracks there.
Yeah, my apologies.
Not really
Councillor.
in the area, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Different.
I do have a question on this though, and herein is my issue, right? We're looking at doing a traffic safety study in that area, right? To me, we're jumping ahead of the where we should be. I thought that the first step that we should do is send a letter to the minister requesting permission to put traffic calming on provincially owned roads within the town. Bali Line, Enemy Line, Marine Drive, Pine Line, whatever roads are here that are, and then get that permission first, so that we know that we can do it before we go spend any money on whether we should do it or not. Like, to me, that's where I thought we were going. I don't know why we're going in this direction, why we spent $10,000.
Thank you, Worship. That's where I was going before Councillor Appleby was
Okay,
asking about the conflict of interest. So, just on that line, I guess it came down to the discussion in terms of who should spend the money in the area and whether or not we can actually do it. And we know the number of emails we've gotten on this particular issue, and we're trying to come up with some resolution on it. And you know, Bali Line was essentially not a residential road, and yet, you know, as a town, I guess we allowed residences to go there at one point in time, and equally valid, the province allowed development there as well. And it was never built as a road, it was built as a feeder road really overall, so it has a different class of road than what a residential road is. Hence why there are smaller shoulders and things of that nature, and hence why, if we go down the road, we should actually seek approval to have this done, and then maybe have the province, push back on the province and our member to try to get this money so that we can actually do that in this area to see what the solutions are, and that's where we were going with it, and that's why we don't have a motion here today for us to spend the $9,800 on it.
Okay.
So sort of in the same line that you were speaking, so I think to present the council for discussion exactly how we're doing and how to proceed, and I think that maybe what we should do is come back with a motion to say, we recommend that we approach the province to, see what they can do to assist us in getting traffic studies in these areas, because it is on roads that have, uses for which they never intended in the first place, really, I guess.
The issue we're gonna run into, though, is when we go back to the department, to the deputy minister and the department heads in there, they're gonna come back and they're gonna say, it's very simple, no, you're not allowed to put traffic calming on provincial roads because it goes against the Highway Traffic Act. So the only way that we can do it is with a letter of permission from the minister, specifically saying that we can do it and within the dates provided. Then we can argue about who should pay for the traffic study. If the answer is going to come back, no, you can't do it, then that's that. And I know because Councillor Tapper, when he was mayor, they went in and had a meeting with the minister, and the minister provided permission at that time, but they didn't ever put anything in writing. So it's difficult for us to move on something without anything in writing, right? So that's just my thoughts on it.
Mayor, could I speak?
Yeah.
Before the election, Mayor and I and the MHA were involved with a meeting with Transportation and Infrastructure, and it was regarding the approved funding for sidewalks. And there was a comment made about a request by a member of council for a turning lane on Torbay Road in proximity to Juniper Ridge Intermediate. And the comment from the department was maybe it's time to have discussion about downloading or turning the ownership of Torbay Road over to the municipality. So before any letter is written to government, I would recommend that council discuss this matter further, maybe in a privileged meeting, to have a plan of, I guess, attack, for lack of a better word, because if we go to the department now asking to put speed bumps on 5 roads, they potentially could come back and say, well, here you go, these 5 roads are yours, and then where are we going to be to? So I just would advise council to proceed cautiously and have a well thought out plan before moving forward.
All right, that's a fair comment. I think we should add that to our next committee of the whole agenda, that we're going to have a meeting and we'll discuss where we go from there. Is
Fair
everybody
enough.
all right with that?
We can discuss it all then, it's perfect.
All right, perfect.
I got lots more to say, but that's, I
All
won't
right.
say it, I won't say it now, I'll reserve comment.
Thanks
for that. The roadwork project for the gas tax funding in the Ready Drive, Country Drive, and Crowley Place is continuing and should be completed towards the end of November. I won't necessarily read everything else here. We know the water study is still on the go. We still have that challenge of trying to find sufficient water and quality water for all the residents in Torbay and enough for us to feed growth in the town as well. Trail development, pretty much where we expect it to be this time of year, and we're going to obviously build some more into next year to complete the well-loved trails that we all have. Question always comes up as to North Pond water levels. Yes, we're still down significantly, so the water ban is still in place. You would think that after all the wet weather, we'd be better off, but we're not really having any heavy rainfalls to fill, so we're still in holding pattern. Not that I'd like to see the rain, but I would for a short period of time to fill the pond back up, shall we say. And there were an updated communications package on recycling waste for public release coming up as a result of our new contract. Just a reference to the change orders that I referenced earlier were attached, so we can bring them forward for motion next time around once everybody has more details on what actually transpired there. We'll do that next time. The work is already essentially in process or done already. So, other than that, Your Worship, that ends my report.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Under trail development, it says new layout. Which trail are they referring to? New layout has been communicated.
Yeah, so that's the, what we're calling the Western Island Pond Extension. It comes down from Forest River Road by the gazebo towards the bypass road, because the overall plan is bringing it right to the East Coast Trail on the beach. So they were actually on site there this afternoon. They dropped off their equipment, so they're going to be doing that piece this year. It's going to come probably 3/4 way down to the bypass, we'll say.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple
Great.
questions. I'm just wondering, I'll go to Director, I guess, on this one, with regards to that water quality or quantity up North Pond Road. I guess if the pressure is down below what the expected is, what do we do there in that situation? Because, and I'm tying that in, Brian, to the fact that CAO sent out an email today regarding the investing in infrastructure for the Canada program and what the priorities and what have you are. And I think like that's again something that and I'm really concerned about the deadlines that are in there, because if we don't meet till next Monday, you only got a week to look at all of that. So if that water pressure, and it hasn't been like that in that area, like what's the answer? Because now I'm going to be back in the next day or so, back and asking you, so should that be something that we need to be putting into for our infrastructure? And if so, like, there's only such a short time to get costing on projects, not like that, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the items that I've got on the list for that next funding application, and I actually got a price back. I was speaking with Clooney from Wood this morning actually, and just discussing the options and what we should be doing there. And he actually came back with a price late this afternoon on it.
Okay.
So I've already got that price, and I've got, as the CEO alluded to in her email, we've got a number of things that we've discussed over the last little while about priorities for funding and stuff. I mean, obviously our water treatment has to be the top of the list.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
then
they're
we're-
up there, but if we don't get that, then there's smaller ones.
Yeah,
like
and then we're looking
something
at,
like this.
obviously, as councillors are sitting around the table, about sidewalks in different areas and stuff like that. So we do have a list as such that we can
Yeah, but
certainly
this is one, I
discuss.
guess, that came up, that I'm looking at with that development up in North Pond Road, and now, like, it came up about water pressure.
Yeah, so,
And now
yeah,
this one,
yeah, so that development, I believe she's speaking about the development on the corner by Mr.
North Pond
former
Road,
Jim
yeah.
Campbell's, probably,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're on the, that
Opposite
area.
side.
Yeah, they're on the opposite side. So one side is pressure and one side is gravity.
yeah.
So
we need
the
to go
people with the
back
issues are on the gravity
with that
side.
resident about like what they need to do if it's get a pump or whatever, because it's
Yeah.
obviously after getting worse.
Yeah.
And the other one that I've got there is oh geez. Oh my, I had 2 or 3 of them that I had. Okay. The one on the digital signs on the Baaleen line with regards to getting the information, is it possible to have them put back in there for a period of time so that resident, because I know it's going to come up again, so that we can get the resident printed or the information printed for the residents in there on the Baaleen line? I know we took them down because of the hurricane, right?
Yeah, it's hard to put those mobile signs out this time of year because wind could come up at any time, and they're upwards of $20,000 each, so I wouldn't want them to be damaged as such.
Okay.
But I do have information off the sign that was in there, and which, like I say, I'm going through all the signs over the next little while,
Yeah.
and we're going to provide them on locations, right?
Yeah, no, just that
Yeah.
he keeps coming back looking for the
Yeah,
information.
for sure. And the downfall of those mobile signs is they don't provide the same information, I think I might have said this before, as our fixed signs, the digital signs we got. So it doesn't come out so I don't know what word to use, but it doesn't come out the way that the other ones come out.
Yeah, and on that
It's not so easy to
stormwater
read.
management plan, there was a resident in there in Western Island Pond that, I guess there was issues in there with the water, and now that's being resolved. And I guess my big thing on that, Brian, is why the engineers didn't pick up on that, because by the time they had left the area, and you had to get them back in order to correct that problem, like, isn't that unusual?
No, I don't think there is an issue. There's a perceived issue,
Okay.
but I don't think there's a
Because I thought
total
that
issue.
he came back and that it had been resolved, because
Yeah.
I guess,
So that would be bullet number 2 under 1B there. about the second portion of the project where we're extending the ditch on the
Yeah.
eastern side. So we're expecting the contractor back any day now to do that portion. That was
Okay,
motion,
so
that was
that's what
motion by
that is.
council just
Okay.
before the election, I believe.
All right, thank
All right,
you.
no worries.
Okay. And I guess, just to your point, Deputy Mayor, about the speed sign, when Harborside did our original traffic study in 2016, and they had their box in Avalon line doing their traffic counts, the one that they use is about the size of a beer box, I guess, it's the best size I can think of. But it doesn't show anything, so the drivers don't know that you're doing traffic counting, so you get more accurate numbers. And the numbers that came off that sign are in line with what was, if you go back on the website and look at the 2016 study, they're in line with that. So the fact that, I don't know, the fact that we did a traffic study when people didn't realize that they were getting counted for speeding, when a car comes down that hill, I know, live right there, and they see the sign and the sign is flashing, they slow down. So it's kind of doing your traffic calming for you, but it's not giving you an accurate reflection of how fast those cars are going because they're slowing down. See the sign, right? So,
Oh, yeah, when you
It's a
see those
kind of a
signs,
double-edged
it's just
sword.
automatic, you slow down.
yeah, yeah. All right, any other
Mayor,
questions?
Just comment, if I could.
Yep.
To your point on the traffic coming, I've got, I live on that stretch right under that hill the same, and when I'm around enough to see, and these days, poor souls, I'm working in the front of the house, so I do see, and I call the RNC, I report it, and the RNC will tell me that they are sending extra patrols, they will do that. We have a role as residents, not just as council here, to address some of these issues. And I'm certainly not downloading what we need to do as a council onto residents at all. But I can tell you that Trina Appleby, resident of Bowling Line, picks up the phone and calls the business of the vehicle that has a sticker on the side of it and says, your vehicle just passed my house and it definitely is not doing the speed limit. Can you please let that driver know that we have kids in this neighborhood? And I call the RNC and report that, so they increase the patrols. And I think it's important that we as residents take some of this into our own hands as well and make sure that we're informed and we know who to contact. And maybe as a town, we can share some more, social media and information messaging around if they're speeding in your community, what do you do? These are the things to think about. I know we do it a lot, but I think it's important that, it's like, why does Coke and Pepsi advertise? Same thing, to keep that front of mind. For the trail discussion, thank you for the clarification on that, Brian. I do know that when we were out campaigning and there were conversations with people who were up in Eagle Ridge area, we did have a letter at the last meeting about it. But we did, somewhere in the last couple of meetings before the last term of council, have a conversation about our trails. We talked about the proximity to neighborhoods and how we were supposed to make sure that residents within the town should have access to trails within a 10-minute walk of their home. So when we're looking at recommendations for budgets for trails for committee, and I know this is going to come back to the committee I sit on, so I'm just putting it out there now, could we have a look at, in the community for next steps, are there any areas that don't have that ability to get that 10-minute walk to? I know we've done a lot of trail work around Forest Landing in different areas, and I'm new to this committee, so I'm learning as we go. And maybe for economic reasons, it makes sense to continue as something instead of starting something different. Again, I'm open to all that. I don't have the full picture on how those discussions happened at committee. But I would like for us to have a look, because we did have a conversation. There have been emails and correspondence with residents up there who were saying, we're in our neighborhood, it's a lovely neighborhood. We don't have green space, we don't have playground, we'd like to have access to a trail. We're not sure where to and how to coordinate. So I think it's important that we as Public Works Committee go back and have a look at some of that stuff as we discuss what are our priorities for next budget and where those spaces going to be. And as far as the water discussion is concerned, I think we need to go back and, of course, continue with what we're doing. Expansion is something that this town needs to do. We definitely need to have access to water to get that expansion in place. And it's been an issue within this last year that's absolutely crippled us on some of the things that we want to move forward. And with the pond now, our main water supply, that's still in a banned situation, it makes it very difficult for any recommendation to come forward about any further development on that water supply. I do want to make the point, though, I know that we've reached out to the city to have the conversation about the regional water supply, and we are looking at Great Pond, and we are looking at capacity, and we are looking at quality, and there's a lot of different pieces there that people don't always understand because they're impacted in different ways. But I think that one of the things I'd like for us to do at the committee level is to go back and really have a little bit more of an update and a conversation and an awareness piece for me as well around what are we doing for each of these pieces. Because access to water is one discussion, and not having enough water in the pond to meet the town's current need, because right now we've got the ban on the last couple of months, and we don't know when and if we're going to alleviate that ban because of the supply. The second piece of discussion is around the quality of the water, and I know that we had a conversation in the last committee meeting about the screening of the water when it comes out, the treatment of the water. Yes, water is safe and is tested by staff and is tested by the province as per those safety standards. We've all seen the pictures on Facebook or have been emailed pictures of what's happening in people's homes. And we did have the conversation about the email and the people sign a petition, forgive me, the petition that came forward. And I did ask in the last meeting that we cross-reference people that we're aware of with the people who have signed that petition. When that email came, it was actually correspondence to the town. So we could have a look at our mapping and who we're aware of who are having issues, but cross-reference that with who's on that petition to say, did we miss this person in this part of the town? What is their issue? Because back to what Councillor Thorne-Goss was saying, if there's a pressure issue, if there's a quality issue, if it's a amount of water issue, there's a number of issues, and we certainly need to work towards resolving those. We're, I'm sure, all of the same mind on that. So just put that out there so that we could figure that out. And the last thing on the traffic, when we had the conversation, back to what Councillor Pollard was saying, I don't feel the taxpayers of Torbay should have to be on the hook for a $9,800 study to look at traffic calming on provincial roads. I don't think that the taxpayers of Torbay should have to be in fear of us having those roads downloaded to us by the provincial government either. And I think that CIO makes a really good point when she says we need to make sure that we have a plan. And, you know, this all comes back to the planning proclamation that we had in the beginning and the need to plan. The government just put the money in for that road, and we've got great pavement, but there's no shoulder. And my son asked me this afternoon, he said, Mom, can I go with my friends on my bike down that road? And I said, no, you cannot, because I don't want my 10-year-old going down that road with the traffic I know that goes down there, with the speeds I know that go down there, and there's no shoulder of the road for him to pull off on. And to Councillor Pollard's point, when that road was put in there, it was put in there for a different purpose, and maybe the scope of work was done for a different purpose. But it's a residential neighborhood, and there are tots, 3 apples high, that are running around in our neighborhood, cute as buttons, that are out playing. But if you turn quickly, those kids, I don't even want to think about what could happen. So I think it's a really important discussion that we need to continue to have. I do feel that there's an important discussion on the traffic calming piece to have with our MHA, to bring him in, to have him working with and for us, to know where to go with those conversations and build on what we've been doing. So I look forward to that conversation. And I also think it's important for the water discussion to have the conversation with our MHA and our MP about next steps. We certainly have tried these past 4 years that I've been on council, I know you did in the previous councils as well, to fund resolutions. These are not easy. If they were, we'd have it done. Like, it's not for the lack of trying. The effort, the want to do is there. But I think now we've got a newer MHA, we've got a new MP, we've got a new council. Maybe we can all come together and work with our planning and our public works and our staff and resources that we have here to try to find some of those solutions. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to being part of one of the committees who will be able to do that work. So
once council looks at it and we figure out where the direction is, then I will, at the direction of council, I'll reach out to the MP and to the MHA and communicate with them, because that's how we should be doing it.
yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Good enough. Recreation.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Mayor.
not going to ask if anybody else got any questions about public works. I've heard enough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
We met on October 27th from 4 to 5 p.m. Well, we went a little bit longer than that. There was a fair bit of things to discuss. Myself, Deputy Mayor Mary Thorne, Jen Martin, and Don Chaplin, our CEO, join us as well. Just to go over a couple of things with some program updates. The Director gave an overview of the most recent special events, including stats. This included Halloween Spectacular, which had 149 participants. Trunk or Treat was on October 24th, had 298 participants, plus 21 vendors. The Haunted Hike, October 26th to 28th, had 593 participants, for a total of 1,061 people at these 6 days of events. So it just goes to show, I think, that we've had some good participation from the community, which is great to see, and we look forward to more events like this coming forward. Upcoming events, the committee also discussed with a focus on the Christmas events, including the seniors' Christmas party, breakfast with Santa, and pictures with Santa. The Director will discuss with staff if there is a capacity to increase numbers, and we'll look for other creative ways to get residents involved. We also talked about Recreation User Pass. The Director of Recreation will develop a template for recreation passes that residents can purchase to allow them to access various programs that would normally be a drop-in fee program. There will be a month, 6-month, or a yearly pass. Once the fees are determined, it will be brought back to committee. Recreation Guide Committee discussed best approaches to getting community guides and information out to residents. Staff will request for them to be located at various businesses in town, in addition to the Town Hall and Torbay Common. Facility update, vaccine passports. Director reviewed the process, followed all recreation facilities. The department started implementing it on October 22nd. Splash pad. One item to be completed by Marco in May of 2022, but the splash pad will be functional as of July 1, 2022. With regards to Eagle Nest Ridge, Scenic View Ridge, the committee reviewed the letter submitted on behalf of the residents. The CAO and the Director of Recreation will discuss with the Director of Public Works to discuss a plan moving forward. We also had a committee mandate with the Director review the committee mandate for the Recreation and Community Services Committee, and any outstanding items. Director provided an update of various funding applications that will be submitted in November. One thing I will mention that wasn't mentioned in the minutes, we had talked about Councillor Thorne and I and Jen. We talked about how to get more residents engaged in our communities. One thing that again that Councillor Thorne brought up, and being from Bay Roberts, where I was from in my childhood, we always had a recreation commission. And recreation commissioners are something, not only does it help with the the recreation piece of it, it bears community involvement. And once you get people involved with those commissions, you get people coming to these, they get interested, get their friends interested, and once we get those things in place, I think there's nothing but positive influence can come from that. I've been part of this community for a little over 20 years, and I think we've chatted about things like we have community events, but we don't get people to show up to them. And why is that? We need to get more community engagement, and by having those kind of committees set up, whether it be recreation or whatever the case, I think it's something that we can really move forward on and start here and now. Beyond that, beyond the post-COVID, we'd like to see obviously more use in the Torbay Common. I know COVID kind of killed everything going forward at the present time back then, but now it's time to hopefully we're turning the corner on that, and we're going to get more engagement from our community and have more activity in that building. And really, as it was said by our CAO, she says, "Time to get that place rocking and rolling."
Sounds good.
I'd just like to add that was a really exciting, really upbeat meeting.
Yep.
And I know Councillor Goss was there, like, are you ever going to be quiet out of it? But it was from a really passionate, and it was so nice to have the CAO and Jen being there, and a lot of the ideas were all on the same page. So just looking at it from a move forward now to see where we go for in the new year. And I think that with the 50th birthday celebrations, I know CAO was looking for us to try to have a meeting sometime in the next a couple of weeks to kick it off the committee, but I'm hoping that that will bring the group of people together. But again, Jen, like, I'm looking forward to working with you. It was a really, really good meeting. Don't look around, Councillor Pollard, because I know she don't know what she's in store for, and I told her right up front, but it was really exciting to go there and to be talking about all of this positive stuff and how we can make, and she's already got some good suggestions, even to make it better again for Christmas. One thing, as I'm saying this now out loud about making it better, I'm just wondering if maybe we could get a few of those programs, calendars dropped off at like the drugstore and potentially over to Foodland, some of the extra ones if there's any around. Because I know in talking to people, they were really delighted to get the few that they've got their hands on, and people that are over to the Common, like a few I talked about even this morning, we're all delighted that they could go in and take the copy out. And they even had some questions. I went, just dropped in down Traditional Coffee House, and I'm saying I almost had a meeting down there with people. So, but it's all good. So, thank you.
Okay,
Could I just,
go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of things there. Love the idea of the pass. Love it. I am one of those residents who will tell you I find e-services painful. I know that the town staff have got me when I've got to sign up for something and I'm going, how do I do this? I'm struggling. I'm saying that as a councillor. That's not a against staff thing. It's just that me personally, I do understand people's issue, and I think I'd be more inclined to use the facility and participate in events if I knew I had 10 passes, 15, 20 passes, and I could participate in that way without having to sign up at e-services. I know the logistics around that is something you guys are going to have to figure out, how you keep the numbers kept and what that looks like. But the concept of a pass to work, I really am open to that, and I think that's a great suggestion. Around the use of the facility, I think you're right. I think it's really important that we need to get as many people using the facility as possible. It's a big price tag for residents to pay for a facility if they're not using it. So I think that's a very important thing. I think when it comes to community engagement, I love your idea, Councillor, about the Recreation Commission. I do think that, you know, once we're looking at engagement, we have all kinds of resources available to us now with how to communicate with people. And what are you interested in? I ran the soccer club for 6 years because I had an interest in soccer. It wasn't because I had to, it was because I wanted to. And so different people have interests. They're interested in softball, they're interested in hockey, they're interested in line dancing, they're interested in yoga. I don't know how we could do it in this conversation with our communication staff, but we could do what would you like to see coming up this fall or this winter at the Common? Would you like an outdoor thing? Are you into snowshoeing? What do you want to do? So there's some engagement we can do that way. I think around the discussion about how we provide information about what's going on. We've had this discussion the last 4 years that I've been here, and I'll bring it up again. I feel really, really strongly we need to have a written communications plan that talks about how we're engaging and communicating with people. And Deputy Mayor Thorngass has said over and over again, you know, we're missing people with social media. We're sending emails, we're doing these things, we're missing people with social media, and we are. But here's the other piece. If we are taking our town document and saying, here's what's happening, we're putting in this business and that business, and we're not hitting the other three, all of a sudden we're looking like we are supporting some businesses and not the others. So we'd be very careful about, if we're going to take it to the drugstore, we're going to take it to Foodland, it's got to go to the bakery, it's got to go to the coffee shop, it's got to go to the PJs, everywhere, to be fair to all the businesses in the community. That's a harder thing to do. But what I think we need to think about is that comms plan, have it written, who are we targeting, what are we targeting them about, then council can look at it and say, we know exactly what our communications is going to be. And for people who are not on social media or don't want to be contacted by email, then what we can do is we can send something out annually with your tax bill that says, hey, how do you want to be engaged with? I can tell you right now, when a robocall call comes to my house, I'm the person, again, resident and councillor, who answers it and goes, okay, there's something else on. My concern with that is, and I know some people like robocalls, but for Trina Appleby, a robocall should be, there's a tidal wave coming through Torbay, get your stuff, get out. That's my perception of it. And I'm afraid that for emergency communications, that people won't know. You have to answer that because it's an emergency communication. So we need to figure out, how are we communicating? What are those pieces of communications being used for? And how do we make sure that if we are putting it in different areas of the community, how are we getting it to people? Because we can put it in all the businesses out there and we can put it in the common, but if you have challenges, especially seniors who might not be as mobile or able to have a driver, they don't have their license anymore, how are they getting that then if we're not mailing it out? So I just would ask that the Recreation Committee go back, think about that, work with our communication staff and CAO to make sure that we firm this stuff up, because I think that there's an opportunity, again, for us to build. We do great communications, we do great work around that, but I do think there's an opportunity there for us to build on what we've done, and I'd like to see social media used a little more for engagements, quick surveys. What do you like to see? How's that going to roll? But if there's a comms plan that's in place, then we know here's how we're looking after our seniors. Here's how we're reaching out to people if it's an emergency situation. So I know if I receive that communication from the town, I need to move quickly. Those are the things that I think we need to be looking at. The last thing I want to say is thank you so much for the work that you did around the breastfeeding. It is awesome to see the very first breastfeeding support group happen this morning at the Torbay Common. I know as a parent of 2 children who breastfed both my children, that support group is a lifeline for parents. They get to come together, they get to have a conversation, they get out of their house, they're off a schedule for a minute, they get away, see their babies, how they're doing. There's that support to say, hey, you're doing fine, you're doing a good job. Oh, someone else had that same issue. So hats off to you for making that happen. That was big and awesome.
You can't keep going on.
Last point, I just, and my very last point was, I love the enthusiasm that's happening here tonight around community services and recreation. My first 2 years on this council, I was on that committee, and it was fabulous. And I love to see the energy here tonight about the work that you're doing, because it is big. This is the front lines of what people are looking for, and hats off to you guys. I'm looking forward to the good stuff you're going to do.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it.
Councillor Tapper?
Just quickly,
Yeah.
Councillor Goss, at our corporate services committee meeting, when we spoke about the motions concerning the towns, you recommended that I go over and take a tour, which I did.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank Jen and Danny. And I recommend everybody, we've been in the commons, in the gym, and, multi-purpose room, but there's other rooms in that building that are worth seeing. So and there's issues that we're going to have to deal with as well. So, again, I thank Jen and Danny, especially Danny, because Jen let him take the lead, but he knows his stuff, so.
Yeah,
thanks.
good person.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Sorry,
CEO.
Mayor. Just regarding 2B, the splash pad, on Friday, late Friday, received an email notification that Marco has the bond regarding Marco's completion of the work has been extended to October of 2022, and they are in agreement to complete the work in May. So we're just finalizing the amendment to the agreement on that. And I guess just to Councillor Goss's overview of the committee meeting and Councillor Appleby's comments, we did discuss a resident survey that we would be putting out, seeking feedback on programs and services and how residents find out about the different events, what type of events, where the gaps are. The other piece too is the director is meeting with all community groups and all sports groups, so she's going to engage them as well that way, because seniors versus youth, very different communication mediums. And when it talked about dropping guides off, it was trying to balance north and south side, so that list will be finalized and come back to committee and then to council. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so before we move on, I'm going to be giving some direction to the deputy clerk as she goes forward when you're amending the rules of procedure. I want something in there about reports and questions and how long people can speak. Not because I don't like listening to y'all speak, but we have rules in there for when there's a motion on the floor. And I think that we have really good discussion. But we just need to put something in our rules about questions around the report piece. Please, if you don't mind. Thank you. I'm not picking on anybody, I'm just saying that it needs to be in our rules. Thank you. All right, where am I to? Oh,
Liaisons.
is that it? Councillor Guy?
Oh, yes, yes.
All right, thank you very much. All right, liaison committees. Atlantic Mayor's Congress. There's links here to the presentations that we had in Charlottetown last week. You're going to find some of them very interesting. CAO, just one note about Colliers that did that presentation. They've already expressed an interest in sponsoring when they come here.
Okay.
So we'll see what they. And I guess I didn't re-offer myself for my board of directors seat on Atlantic Mayor's Congress, and I offered up to Percy Farwell, Mayor Gander instead. So he's going to serve as the Newfoundland representative on that board now. And one other thing that was a really good presentation that I saw when I was there, and it's very pertinent to some discussion that we've had recently, excuse me, around public transportation. So Charlottetown at one point they were in dire straits with regard to public transportation. It's very similar to other places. Typically, public transportation is between 70 and 80% subsidized, and you get between 20 and 30% from fares from the ridership if you're lucky. They have a system that they're operating right now that's a public-private partnership where it's 50%, it's 50-50. So the person that brought that bus service in, called Maritime Busing, committed to having a 50-50 split between the municipality and the company. So it's really interesting how they go about it. So when I get some information on that, I'm going to pass it on to council for when we do have a discussion around public transportation. I think that people need to realize when you provide a service like public transportation that it is very heavily subsidized by the operational revenues of the town. So there's never any funding available from any level of government to contribute to operation costs. It's always capital. So when we went and visited with the Metrobus a few years ago, it was about, I have an email somewhere, but I know the numbers off the top of my head. It was like $276,000 to have 2 runs a day from Stavanger Drive to Foodland and back, and it was like 160 some odd thousand to do one run a day from Stavanger Drive to Foodland and back. So it's a big cost to go that route. We still need to explore it because it's something that obviously that residents are asking for, and it opens you up to different type of resident to be able to come live here. Someone who doesn't have a car. If you don't have a car now, you can't come live in Torrey. Where are you going? How are you going to get anywhere? So there's options around that we can look at, and we'll have to explore those.
That's why that funding application that's on the go that came out in June.
Yeah.
And I think the deadline is the middle of November. That is really important for us to put something together, because that's a pilot and it's for $100,000.
Right.
Which would fit in lovely to what we're exploring. So big things getting that.
And I think to your point, I think that's the first time ever I've seen funding come for that type of public transportation where a municipality doesn't already have public transportation can avail of the money.
Yeah.
Because for the $1 billion or 700 whatever million it was that came out last year during the infrastructure funding from the federal government, the only 2 municipalities in the whole province that could avail of that was St. John's and Cornbrook.
Yeah, so we could tie that in potentially to the other adjoining towns and look at it from a regional perspective, and then we could all be seen as getting it. So we're just concerned about the timing of it all.
Yep. So if you can check out those presentations, they're really good, and the one on short-term rentals was really well put together. I think that what you have to remember, and this is something that we've talked about at MNL before, is trying to clamp down on these short-term rentals because they should be providing tax dollars to the town as a business. That the negative, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You want to promote business in your town, but you don't want to lower inventory of rentals where people can get reasonable rent of a dwelling Now you're taking those out of your rental capacity and you're putting them into short-term rentals where people don't mind, they'll only rent it for 10 days a month and they're making the money, as if opposed to renting out to a family for a month. So there's a lot of interesting things there to look at. So anyway, I just thought I'd pass that along. It was a really good meeting. History House Museum, Councillor Tapper.
Very short, there's an update there from the museum manager. We all heard his presentation there last week, and I'm sure that you learned a lot from that, his energy and everything else. The next board meeting is actually tomorrow night, so that's all I'm going to say unless you have any questions.
I already got Noah penciled in for when I need a keynote speaker on something. He's awesome. Yeah. All right, the intergovernmental affairs, nothing there to report. There's scatter emails. Well, actually, there's emails and invites went out to council for meeting with the MHA, and we're trying to get a hold of our MP, right? We're still in the process of that, okay. Jackburn Regional, Councillor Pollard. No update, perfect. Northeast Avalon Joint Council. Deputy Mayor.
I think it's the 15th
Okay.
date that we were supposed to have the next meeting. And I think Dawn just sent out some meetings what we got scheduled for that same evening, 3 or 4 on that particular Wednesday night, so I don't know what we'll end up doing with regards to that, right? 17th,
We'll figure it out.
yeah, and that's a full agenda that we have.
Okay, thank you. RNC, CAO gave a quick update on that earlier. That we got a meeting coming up with them soon. Torbay Volunteer Fire Department, Councillor Manning.
We did have a meeting October 21st, or 25th, sorry. Virtual meeting. And they went over, they introduced me to the fire hall and things like that, and they had their, I don't have any notes or anything here. But it was a good meeting and a good
Okay.
introduction.
He usually sends the longer minutes to the
Yeah.
Peggy. All right, thank you. UMC, have any update? The next UMC meeting is going to be at the convention in Corner Brook next weekend. Hope this weekend. Hopefully they're going to find somebody to chair the meeting in my place. I think it'll be Councillor Tina Neri from Portrait Coast St. Phillips, maybe. She's on that committee and she's on the board, so it would be a good fit. All right, notice of motion. Don't have any. New business. Start this way.
Passed.
Pass. Councillor Eppley.
Thank you, Worship. Just speaking of M&L, part of my comment was to congratulate the M&L staff for putting together our very first in-person convention that is going to happen this week into the weekend in Corner Brook. So thank you to them for all their hard work, and looking forward to meeting with municipal delegates from across the province. And I think it's really cool just to note that for those who can't make it there in person, there is an online option as well to participate. So that's really great, because some of the member communities that, you know, for them to send someone, travel, hotels, all the costs that can go with that, sometimes they can still benefit from the information sharing and what's there in the virtual capacity. So that's excellent. Really looking forward to that, and can't wait to get out there, and looking forward to getting out there with you, councillors. It's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. It's awesome. I wanted to just speak quickly about the COVID outbreak on the Burin Peninsula, and note that for the past 2 weeks, I have been not here and protecting as many of my colleagues as I can by not being around the table. We had very close contact with that out there for a wedding, like all of us tend to do. We were careful and as protected as we could be. And the next thing we found out that when you thought you were in the clear, there was someone else that had a contact that had to be tested. We were lucky that we weren't impacted, but it's very much something that's still in our community. So I just want to put a shout out to the leaders on the Burin Peninsula. I know that they are working very hard to address that outbreak, and a big thank you to Eastern Health and the people out there. My heart's home with a lot of people who are impacted. My family is one of them, and I certainly was as well. The other thing I wanted to just issue a quick congratulations about was the people who ran the telly. It's the first time there's ever been a telly in October, and I watched as many people from the town of Torbay ran, and I told a resident today that she and her sister have inspired me and my sister to do the telly. Now, my youngest sister has yet to run a telly, but she will, because I'll drag her next year. So I'm putting her on notice tonight that we will have our sneakers on and we will be out there, and I will drag her over the finish line if need be. So with that said, that was it for me. I just wanted to issue a few thank yous and congratulations, and looking forward to the weekend now of working with other municipalities to talk about some of the same challenges that we have, and how do other areas, address things that we're trying to work on here, and share that information and bring it back to council. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Manning.
I'd like to pass along heartfelt condolences to Gerard Manning's family. Gerard passed away suddenly late last week. Gerard is a cousin of my husband, so it's been a rough time for the family in dealing with it. It was sudden and unexpected. But I just wanted to let them know that we're thinking about them.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Back to me. All right, I just want to say thank you to the volunteer fire department for doing pumpkin patrol yesterday, getting out around the community, making sure that everybody is safe. And I want to say thank you to staff and council for last couple of weeks. Been pretty hectic, pretty busy on schedules, and trying to squeeze in a lot of meetings and a lot of information. Particularly for new members of council, there's a lot to learn in a short period of time, and I thank you guys for putting the time in, and staff for setting up your excellent presentations and being there to answer questions for council. And as always, thank you to the people that are watching at home, the millions of fans that we got. And we'll see you all here next week, because our next public council meeting is scheduled to take place on Monday, November 15th, 6:30, right here in the Torbay Council Chamber. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
Any questions?
There's no questions. You don't have any questions, do you? You don't? I forgot to ask. Oh, you're good? Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye.